As a Bolivian, I'm very upset with the many public figures such as Bernie Sanders and AOC misinforming millions of people about the reality of the situation in my country, Bolivia. They've been favoring ex-President Evo Morales Ayma and his gang of tyrants by tweeting false and incomplete information. On November 11th, AOC tweeted, "What's happening right now in Bolivia isn't democracy, it's a coup. The people of Bolivia deserve free, fair, and peaceful elections, not violent seizures of power." Indeed, we do deserve free, fair, and peaceful elections, which is the complete opposite of what we got that same day of the elections, October 20th, 2019, when Morales was still in power. Also, violent seizures of power. Absolutely nobody seized the power violently. Morales resigned and left us with no president for over 24 hours. Later that same day, Senator Sanders also tweeted, "I am very concerned about what appears to be a coup in Bolivia, where the military, after weeks of political unrest, intervened to remove President Evo Morales." No, the military did not intervene to remove President Evo Morales. The military, along with other groups of civic movements, simply suggested him to step down to calm the situation in the country. So people, let's please get our facts straight before we start misinforming millions of people on online platforms. For all these misinformed people, here's what they didn't tell you. In 2004, Evo Morales was legally and legitimately elected and assumed the presidency in 2005. During his first term, his party made a new constitution where they created a figure of re-election that allowed the same individual to be elected for 2 consecutive terms of 5 years each. Before this, no individual could be elected 2 terms consecutively for the presidency in Bolivia. So we're clear there. In 2009, he was once again legally and legitimately elected as the president of Bolivia. Although the new constitution only allowed him to be elected for a 2nd consecutive term, he decided to run for a 3rd term, claiming that his 2nd term was actually the first one under the new constitution. So, because Evo Morales wanted to stay in power, he called to a legally binding referendum where he asked Bolivians if the president and the vice president could be elected indefinitely, and Bolivia voted a big fat no, because that's called a dictatorship, and we don't want that. But of course, he disobeyed his people and the referendum and went ahead and asked the Constitutional Court, which is the equivalent of the United States Supreme Court, if being re-elected indefinitely was a human right. Obviously, this court is mainly composed by judges selected by his party. Yes, so like handpicked by Evo Morales himself. So naturally, the answer was yes. Utilizing this sentence, he pressures the Electoral College to allow him to run again. This time, this 4th re-election violates the Constitution, and it also violates the referendum of 2016 that denied him the option of running again for presidency indefinitely. With all this, he once again decided to run for office and ignore every single Bolivian that cast their vote that day. He has already been president for almost 14 years. His election was already frowned upon, the 3rd one. And this 4th re-election attempt was beyond being frowned upon. It violated the Constitution, he broke the law, and he directly disobeyed the legally binding referendum of 2016. Legally binding, people. Anyways, fast forward to election day, this past October 20th, 2019. Morales was neck to neck with the opposition candidate until about 7 p.m. when suddenly the vote counting system stopped working for 24 hours. After 24 hours, the system magically came back, but this time with the surprise that the results showed Morales leading by 10 points ahead of the runner-up. This would automatically make him president for his illegitimate and illegal 4th term, as he self-proclaimed. This unusual and beyond suspicion act, to say the least, puts in doubt the results and the veracity of the entire election process, not only for the opposition, but also for the rest of the people of Bolivia, who immediately started protesting on the streets of the entire country that same night. Due to the intensity of the size and of the hundreds of protests around the entire country, Morales personally and directly invited the OAS to audit the elections. The OAS accepted and committed themselves to delivering the results of their audit in under 2 weeks. In this time frame, the protests and the riots got even more intense. They got larger and they got bigger. At this point, they had paralyzed the entire country. Businesses were shut down, people were on the streets, nothing was functioning, not even public institutions. Surprisingly enough, last Sunday, November 10th, the OAS gave the people of Bolivia and the world the preliminary report of the audit, where they clearly and concisely stated that due to irregularities and inconsistencies found throughout the vote counting process, they recommended to invalidate and to void the entire election. This is the OAS people. So if you think this is just the opposition or people who don't like him that are trying to spread out this information, go Google what the OAS is and how legit this organization is, and you'll understand where we're coming from. Anyways, this report was what really caused Morales' resignation, along with the suggestion to resign from the Catholic Church, the armed forces, and Morales' most hardcore constituent groups, which are indigenous people, to order to calm the situation down. So people, does this really sound like a coup to you? Because to me, it just sounds like people were fed up with him trying to break the law multiple times, violating the Constitution twice, disrespecting the national referendum where the people of Bolivia instructed him to not seek re-election and do it regardless. But most importantly, for blatantly committing massive electoral fraud and crime and bluntly lying and cheating to every single Bolivian that cast their vote that day. And let's make this clear, this is not about supporting a political party. This is about defending our Constitution and reclaiming our democracy. So again, people out there defending him and his party and his ideals and whatever he wanted to do, and whatever you want to call it, honestly. A coup? Seriously? I don't think so. Please get your facts straight before you start voicing your opinion on wrongful ideals. Morales was in power for about 14 years, which is literally 4 more than he was already legally allowed to. And he wanted to stay indefinitely by calling it a human right. This is not a human right. That's called dictatorship. And if you don't agree with that, please go find the words on the dictionary and read the definitions.